Hi there, this is Karen Long, and you are in the Cloud Reporting Pain Points and How to Solve Them Innovate session. I'm going to give us till the actual half hour to begin, so welcome and stay tuned. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Again, this is the Cloud Reporting Pain Points and How to Solve Them, and we will get going in just a few moments. While we wait just a few moments for additional attendees to join, I am going to launch our first poll, and hopefully you can see that now, and I'll give us a minute or two, or probably a minute, and then I'll close it, and then we will get into this. Okay, I will be ending the poll now, and we'll get our results. Okay, so it looks like we've got quite a few beginners trying to learn more about Oracle Business Intelligence and cloud reporting, and some first time ever hearing about it. So that's really awesome that we've got a pretty relatively new group. So hopefully you learned some helpful tidbits in this session. And we also have some intermediate people, so that's awesome. So again, hopefully we share some things that could be useful to you on your journey with reporting. Okay, so again, I am Karen Long, and this is the Cloud Reporting Pain Points and How to Solve Them session. And I wanted to first mention a few things about my company, Alere. We are an Oracle partner. We have a cloud practice, a PeopleSoft practice, EBS, and advisory services. We're established in 2005, and we're celebrating 16 years. We help our clients succeed by partnering with them to efficiently implement, integrate, and optimize their software investments. We provide strategic guidance to assist with best practice core business process improvements, and we specialize in helping unlock the potential of software investment. And a little bit about me. I am Karen Long. I've been a cloud consultant going on 5 years now. I focused in reporting, and I'm also moving into core HR functional areas. So looking forward to talking reports. Alere also does have additional sessions at Innovate, so feel free to attend any of the upcoming ones or watch replays of the ones that already happened in the past. And tomorrow we have a prioritizing project management during your cloud implementation and cloud project portfolio management. What is it and how will it help your organization? So if those sound relevant to you, definitely attend. Okay, so the agenda for today will give an overview of reporting, the reporting tools in HCM Cloud. Then we'll talk about OTBI, pain points and solutions, BI Publisher, pain points and solutions. And if we have time, there's quite a bit of content, but if we have time, we'll have a Q&A. If not, feel free to reach me. I'll have my email at the end of this deck. Okay, so cloud reporting tools overview. So when a company purchases cloud, they will automatically be provisioned with Oracle's Business Intelligence. So this includes delivered analytics and work areas, application pages where those delivered analytics live, and it also includes tools to create those reports that can be embedded on different pages. Here we have a diagram that explains the overall structure. So we have embedded analytics, as well as real-time reporting, and which is often referred to as OTBI, and then real-time reporting, which is referred to as BI Publisher. And the OTBI reporting doesn't hit the actual database directly, but it hits a presentation layer, whereas the BI Publisher tool, you will be hitting the database directly. So I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about each of those tools, and then we will move on to those pain points and solutions. So OTBI versus BI Publisher, that will come up quite a bit in HCM Cloud Talk. When I refer to OTBI, I'm referring to this area of blue icons. And then when I refer to BI Publisher, I'm referring to this published reporting. But both of these tools are available in the HCM Cloud catalog that is provisioned to all HCM SaaS organizations. Okay, so Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence, or OTBI for short, is a really great tool to provide real-time insight into transactional data. Its core functionality allows users to drop and drag selected data from subject areas instead of writing SQL and using different graphical views. Subject areas are a presentation layer built on the actual database table. So Oracle's doing the heavy lifting and putting the joins, the actual SQL together, and then it allows the user to simply pick the fields that they want if they're in the subject area that has those fields. And so there's many subject areas for each module area. So there'll be, like, I believe 10 or so subject areas for benefits. And in each subject area, you can answer different reporting questions. Same with core HR. Core HR subject areas start with workforce management, and then payroll will have its own subject areas. So here's kind of an example of a subject area. This is workforce management position real time. So if your organization is using positions and you want to find out details about employees and their position, you could use this. And this describes the graph on the left describes the fields in that subject area. And then on the right, this would be if you actually opened that subject area in the reporting catalog. You would see the name of the subject area, and then you'd have these folders. Within each folder, you would have the data columns or attributes that you could actually drop and drag into your reports. So you can just pick them and drop them over into that next area. And there's two types of fields that you would have. You'd have attribute fields, and then you'd have measured fields. Measured fields would be like counts or amounts of things, and they have that ruler right next to them. And so after you create an OTBI report, you will have either an odometer looking icon or this computer screen looking icon. And the computer screen looking icon is called a dashboard. And so a dashboard's just and you can put multiple analyses into one dashboard and display multiple views. And that's what it would look like in the reporting catalog. Okay, so then we have Business Intelligence Publisher. So BI Publisher can be used as an alternative reporting solution to OTBI. And this tool actually uses SQL queries to access the application database tables. In OTBI, you are only creating one analysis that can be viewed as well by the end user. In BI Publisher, you have two separate objects. You have the SQL, or the actual query that you're getting the data, and then you have a template built on top of that called the report that is actually presenting that data. So it's a separate data logic layout and translation. So this can be really helpful because you could create one data model or one SQL query that has, a multitude of fields with a certain logic, and you could build multiple reports on them if they needed to have different outputs. This tool can be used to create highly formatted documents such as checks, sales orders, invoices, etc., as well as any data extracts for external consumption. So in this case, in the reporting catalog, that square icon, that orange square icon, is the data model that would be the SQL query. And then that sheet of paper would be the report template that's built on top of the data model that a user would actually go in to run, or it could be scheduled. Okay, so now that was a pretty quick high-level overview of the tool. Now we'll get into some pain points with those tools, some common pain points, and then some things that you can do about those pain points. So one common thing that I see is data is needed from more than one subject area. So maybe you have, you need benefits data and payroll data, or you need assignment data and compensation data, and you can't get everything you need in a single subject area. So that can be tricky because, if you don't have the fields or, the data, then a report that is almost there doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. So you actually can join multiple subject areas together. So Oracle's doing the behind the scene logic, but if you need data, you can, from different subject areas, you can do two things. One of the things that needs to happen in the report is each of the subject areas need to share a folder in common. So if you're doing HCM, you want data from two different subject areas, it's typical that almost all the HCM subject areas have a worker folder. So that's really not something you would necessarily have to do in your report. Like, this happens automatically, that these subject areas will join because they have a folder in common. One additional thing that is not necessarily, it would not happen likely automatically, is the each subject area you are using, you need to bring a measured field into the report. Even though you can get data from multiple subject areas, it's really key to verify the data, because you are not doing the SQL query yourself and Oracle's doing it behind the scenes. It can sometimes join the subject areas in ways that you wouldn't necessarily join them. So even though it can be done, it's definitely something to review and make sure it's looking how you would expect it to. So say it doesn't look exactly how you expect it to. Like somehow the SQL isn't, the joins aren't making sense, or maybe you need additional logic. There is something called logical SQL, and so this is more for more technical users, but you can actually write SQL queries using logical SQL. So you're still like you're selecting from the subject area instead of an actual base table. So you still have a lot of the heavy lifting done by Oracle, but you can join exactly how you want to on a different subject area by writing out that join. Cloud Customer Connect. So since we do have a lot of potentially new to reporting people on this call, I do want to put a shout out to Cloud Customer Connect. They have tons of reporting resources for HCM cloud customers. So definitely go there. Just type Cloud Customer Connect in a browser, and you will be able to get there. Another pain point with OTBI, or Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence Analyses, is sometimes the user runs a report and gets a no results message, but based on the criteria, data should be returned. So this can happen, and so data should be there, but you're getting this message that says no results. So maybe you're trying to pull current employees, and you have employees in the system, but the report's not showing anyone. So OTBI subject areas take a user security access into account. So the user, to actually see the data, the user will have to have the correct privileges to actually view that. Oracle has a document that provides the subject area as well as what security is needed. It has the job role name or the actual privileges for custom roles being created. Okay. Another pain point is an organization may use custom fields created to capture organization-specific data, but these fields are not appearing in OTBI. So, sometimes there'll be flex fields related to the organization or to the person, to the department, or to the assignment. And those fields will actually be available, for the most part, should be available at OTBI. However, certain things have to happen on the front end or during configuration of those flex fields that make them enabled in the reporting in the subject areas. So there's a process that needs to be run called import Oracle data extensions for transactional business intelligence, as well as a field needs to be checked to make that DFF enabled. Okay, so this is a pretty common one. I don't know what subject area to use. So there's, like I mentioned, that maybe 10 or so subject areas for benefits, 10 or so for workforce management. And it can be really difficult to determine which subject area you should use to pull which kind of data. Again, Oracle has a documentation on this that can really help with identifying which subject area to pull. They have in this document, which I have a, it's on Cloud Customer Connect, but I have the link on one of the last slides. It describes each subject area. It gives a description. It gives what business questions you could answer with that subject area, as well as a transactional grain. So some of the subject areas do have logic around them. So there's a subject area, workforce management, worker assignment, real time, which will bring back workers in cloud. It will bring back their current assignment record or records if they have multiple ones. And there's a transactional grain of current date between the effective start date and the effective end date. So it only brings back that current record. So seeing that can kind of give you an idea, oh, this is why, I'm not seeing old records return or something to that effect. Another pain point is, I had mentioned those aggregate fields that subject areas have, and there are measured fields that subject areas have that are amounts or counts. Sometimes they're in a report and they appear to look wrong, like maybe it's doubled or tripled, or it just doesn't look like the number you'd be expecting. So one note on those fields, if you're ever using an OTBI subject area and you're bringing in a count or amount, definitely do a lot of validation to ensure that amount is displaying it correctly, because the amount is aggregated based on the fields you have in the report. So in this example, we have gross earnings, which is a payroll balance, and a balance value. In this case, the balance value is very large because I'm not bringing in something called the base dimension name, which actually breaks down the balances by how they were run. So if I had brought that attribute in, this number would decrease immensely. So using multiple test cases to verify what the amount should be, and then bring in multiple fields to identify what may explain the difference. So another example of this is in benefit enrollments real time. It will actually bring in voided enrollments, as well as it brings in historical enrollments that have been entered in the system. So you'll want to bring in effective start date, effective end date, status of that enrollment to see the whole picture if you're bringing in something like what the rates are for that enrollment. So really playing around with it, knowing, playing around with specific subject areas to really get a grasp on how they work can be key. Okay, so what if you need to do complex manipulation on filters and columns? So I mentioned how easy this tool can be with, its drop and drag functionality. Can it do, what if you need to do like a case statement or concatenate some fields, or do, counts of your own, or just, more advanced manipulation. OTBI actually does offer many tools to do that. So you actually just select the column and you can do a case statement on a field. So if you wanted all jobs that start with 0 to be lumped in this category, you could do that case statement right on that field in OTBI. You can do counts, you can do, you can do all sorts of different things that are more technical than you would necessarily think at first glance in the subject area or in the tool. So even though it is pretty user friendly to get data out, you can also do some manipulation on it that makes it more more malleable. The field I need is not in OTBI. So sometimes there are fields that aren't in OTBI. So you're seeing it on the front end screen and you want to pull this in your report. And that can be quite frustrating. So one thing that you can do is in another document, there is a subject area to database mapping. And it brings in, rather than opening up each folder in the subject area and searching like manually, you could do a filter and look, type in the column that you're looking for in this presentation column. So that would be one way to see if, if that column exists in the subject area. One note on that is, for the most part, there's been very few fields that I've seen on the front end screens that I've not been able to find in OTBI. However, there still are some fields. There's one assignment tax address or worker's tax address that wasn't in there in one of the subject areas I needed, and I did log an idea on Idea Lab, so you can always just request that this field gets added. And Oracle's made great strides from when I've first started. I've seen many new subject areas, many new fields added. So even if it's not in there currently, it might be in a future release. Okay, we're going to get into BI Publisher pain points and solutions. So this is that other tool that I mentioned, that if you need something more formatted, like something highly formatted, or if you can't access maybe a field that's not available in the subject area, or you are combining multiple subject areas, that can work in OTBI, but it can get dicey. So sometimes you do need this tool where you're accessing the database directly. So when a user runs a BI Publisher report, they are able to see data they shouldn't have access to, as pain point 1 for BI Publisher. So in OTBI, we had that no results message because the subject areas are based on the user's security. In BI Publisher, if you have access to the report, there's nothing necessarily in it that would restrict what you're seeing, unless the developer of that report did something special to restrict the data. But Oracle's provided something called secured lists. And these are views that do take the person's security into account. Okay, so the next one is, there are so many fields and it can be difficult to know where data lives and how to connect it. So in this case, there's a few different things you can do. One is you can actually create an OTBI report. So if you feel more comfortable with that tool, but eventually it's not going to get you everything you need, you can create that and then view a log, and then you'll actually see the data behind what Oracle's actually doing, how the real SQL behind the scenes that they're pulling that information, and use that as a starting point for your BI Publisher query. Another document that Oracle has provided is that mapping document. And so you can look for the, again, using that OTBI report, you can identify the table or the presentation columns and then map them to the actual database columns and tables. Oracle also, there are relational diagrams that can be utilized. I haven't seen this updated in some time, so and they're pretty complex. So creating less complex ones can also be a win. Another big win can be utilizing Cloud Customer Connect for delivered reports. So Cloud Customer Connect offers a variety of reports that you can upload into your environment. So depending on how they're built, if it's an OTBI or a BI Publisher, the steps might be a little different, but that's a great place to look as well. One final tip for so many tables and so many different relationships is you can utilize HCM extracts. So this is a tool that I'm not mentioning in this this session. It's definitely a more technical tool, often used for integrations, but it can be used for reports as well. If it is a large extract, you would want to use that tool, but it's definitely very technical. But they do have, in the HTML extract section, they have something called view user entity details, and that gives you queries behind the HTML extract, or the user entities used in HTML extracts. Formatting. My report needs to look a certain way, but I can't accomplish what I need to using the guided report building process. So when you're creating that report template off of the data model, Oracle gives you a guided flow. Within that flow, there's really not too much malleability or not much freedom you have, but they have another tool called the report builder, where you can do more. You can add more formatting, so you can add in sections or tables or pivot tables, or if you needed repeating sections, or if you needed to insert a picture or a logo, you can do that in this tool. If you still need even more, like it needs to look exactly a certain way, there is an RTF template that can be added, or you can upload an RTF template, Excel template, or e-text template. So that's for the very, very formatted, has to look a very specific way. Okay, so this pain point is a general one that I know is definitely very common. Whether a report should be built using OTBI or BI Publisher. So it can be tricky to know, you have this report, which tool is best for the job. We definitely recommend starting out in OTBI. You can create a report in OTBI very quickly. So say you needed general assignment information for an employee, and there was nothing like really tricky about it. You could create that report if you knew which subject area to go to within 10 minutes with prompts and and different outputs in OTBI. However, there's definitely times when BI Publisher would be needed for those more formatted reports. So we created this chart to help guide your tool choice. So a report is highly formatted, needs to look a specific way, then BI Publisher. Report needs data that is not available in any subject areas. You can't really get around that one. So then again, it would be BI Publisher. Report requires complex derived data from multiple modules. So possible potentially in OTBI, but it might, like some of that gets so tricky to do potentially that BI Publisher might be the way to go. Report output has a large number of rows. There is a limit on what can be exported from OTBI, so that would again be a BI Publisher tool of choice in that case. If report needs to be integrated with security with no additional design, that could be OTBI. Report is transactional, operational in nature, and needs to be prepared real time. Data is relatively the same from one to the next, and that would also be OTBI. Okay, so conclusions. Cloud offers several tools to extract data. Each tool has pros and cons. Certain best practices and tips can make report development a smoother process. So here's that OTBI subject area documentation I was mentioning. This is the one that describes all of the different subject areas as well as what security you need to access them. So that's definitely a really helpful one. And then this Oracle mapping documentation is the document that provides all of the subject areas, the presentation columns, as well as what table they would translate into in the actual database. So both of these tools both of these documents have been very, very helpful in report building. And again, Cloud Customer Connect is a great place for, you can ask questions there as well as get delivered, or not delivered reports, get reports that have already been created by others. So here's a little bit about Quest. And Quest helps individuals and companies in a ton of different ways. Quest is great because they offer Innovate and webinars. So definitely a wonderful organization, a wonderful community. So hopefully you are enjoying your time at Innovate for sure. I mentioned this. We've got sales@alir.com for any follow-up questions. You can also email me at karen.long@alir.com. And feel free to check out our other sessions or the replays of our past sessions. I think I took us to the end. Let's see if we have any. Oh, yes. Okay. So I've got a Q&A. So does this apply to ERP as well? Yeah, so it does. All of these pain points and solutions would apply to ERP. However, ERP does have additional reporting tools. And we do have, at Alir, we do have consultants who are versed in ERP reporting solutions. I've focused on HCM, but they would definitely have some insight into SmartView and the other options of ERP. However, the subject areas, ERP does have the same type of thing with the subject areas. I don't believe that document that I mentioned, I think that it only has HCM subject areas, but I believe there's an ERP version very similar. And yeah, so another question came in. Is OTBI similar to PeopleSoft queries? So I would say yes and no. I've worked with quite a few people who have liked PeopleSoft query, the PeopleSoft query tool, and it definitely is different. But I would say it's similar in the way that it does do some of the work for you. It's you have a user interface that does some of the behind the scenes work. However, it is a different tool that would take some getting used to, but probably that would be if you were used to using PeopleSoft query, then you'd want to switch over to the OTBI tool in the future. Well, I think this wraps up our time. So it was really, I hope everyone learned a little. Feel free to reach out and email us, and it was a great. I had a great time sharing reporting info.